You are listening to the Beyond the High Road podcast with Shelby Milford, episode number 86. Stay tuned. Welcome to Beyond the High Road, a podcast dedicated to healing your heart and life following the grief of alienation. I'm your host, Shelby Milford, a twice certified life coach specializing in post-traumatic growth. If you're experiencing the effects of alienation and you're ready to heal, then this show is my love letter to you. Stay tuned. Hey, listen, I've been forgetting to say it, is that number one is Facebook Lives are always on Fridays at noon Eastern time. And also, please, if you haven't yet, I would love it if you would rate and review. And thank you, of course, as always, to all of you that have written reviews in the past too. Hey guys, how are we doing today? Today, we are going to be talking about shitty days. It's a topic that I'm actually surprised we haven't visited yet. I kept having to go back to the podcast, like to the episodes, and reread and make sure that I hadn't touched on this yet, because it seems like the most obvious of obvious. And I must have, in some way, shape, or form, visited the idea of shitty days, but, in past. But anyway, it won't be like I do today, and definitely wasn't the main topic. I always like to give you guys the little backstory to my inspiration and share with you what's going on most recently with me. So hopefully, even if this isn't going on with you, which I can almost guarantee not the exact same thing is happening with you, you can just relate it on to whatever is going on with you, whatever shitty days that you might be experiencing, This weekend, Sunday, was my birthday. And it was my 49th birthday. And so it's not like a big one, but in a way it is, because it's the end of my 40s. It's the end of a decade. And I was like this for my 29th birthday. I was like this for my 39th birthday. And of course, 49th to me is kind of like one of the ones that's like, ooh. Anyway, ever since I had my daughter, her birthday, her grandma, her father's mother, was hoping that I would have my daughter on my birthday. And although I wanted that too, I knew that that wasn't going to happen. I had my daughter June 1st, so less than 2 weeks from my birthday. So always since I was pregnant with her, every birthday of mine is the day that I start thinking, oh, it's my daughter's birthday coming up. And I used to think of it in a really excited and fun way. And of course, in more recent years, it hasn't been the same. I think of her birthday as another one of those like mile markers of like how long it's been, or I wonder what she's going to be doing, what I should get her, and not in like the fun, excited way, but more of like, like the, how do I gift her something that is appropriate yet, sends the right message. And so that is how I woke up this year too. On Sunday, I opened my eyes and I immediately saw a missed call and a text from my mom, who was calling me from Scotland on her vacation, saying happy birthday. And I was like, oh, it's my birthday, my daughter's birthday. Right after my eyes opened, I had this pit in my stomach, like, fuck. And so I got up and I had a sort of ho-hum outlook about the day from the start. Let me back up a little bit too. The day before, I'd gotten a call from my father, who was calling to let me know about the reservation that he had made for the day of my birthday. I have not spent a birthday with my father in a while. Last year, he was out of town. The years before that, I was in Texas, and we just whatever. But this year, he made a point. He was like, I'm going to be in town. We're going to do something together, blah, blah, blah. He made a big deal about it this year. I, because of that, did not make any plans for my birthday day. So on Saturday, he called to tell me that the reservation is at such and such, that to just come to his house, and we would go from there. Great, fantastic. That's kind of like what we normally do. I go and see his dog and hang out for a little while, and then we go on from there. Let me back up even more from that. My father is remarried, and he has remarried somebody that, how do I put this without taking up too much time, not sounding so judgy or that like I am diagnosing anybody. But let's just say, and it would make sense because of my father's personality and then the way that I've acted and my choices in people, the person he's married to displays narcissist adjacent traits. She definitely checks those boxes, at least in the exchanges that I've witnessed being in her presence. He's been with her for, I don't know, for as long as my daughter's been alive. So at least 17 years. And before that, there was anyway, he's been with her for a while. I used to outwardly revolt against her, and I was a bit of a brat about it years ago. And then I grew up and decided that I needed to act like an adult and support my father in whatever decision he decided to make for himself, because he's a grown-ass man, and why am I going to resist this, right? That's just the logical thing to do. So anytime I see her, I'm very nice and cordial. I am supportive of whatever decisions he makes with her moving forward. That's just, it is what it is. And having said that, she and I have not shared a meal together since my father's birthday back in December. We don't spend time together. She doesn't make time in her schedule for me. I don't make time in my schedule for her. It's a mutual thing. It's fine. We both sort of tolerate the fact that we exist. When I see her, I am very lovely. I have a whole mindset on going in with it, but I don't love the way she treats him. I don't love the way that she controls his time. The last 15 or 20 times that my dad and I have been out to lunch or dinner or spend any time together, she has not been present. My dad has made sure to schedule those lunches, dinners, anytime we have together while she is out of town working, which happens pretty frequently. I know that she's out of town when he calls and says, hey, you want to go to lunch? You want to go to dinner? I'm like, oh, you must be a bachelor this week. Okay, get the picture? She's not part of the regular routine that he and I have. So he calls on Saturday and says, hey, I made a reservation at such and such place. Meet me here like normal and we'll go from there. Cool. A couple minutes later, I get a call from him and he says, hey, change of plans. Why don't you just meet us at the restaurant? Did y'all pick up on that? Meet us at the restaurant. And I immediately picked up on it and I was pissed. I was already missing my daughter, all day. This was Saturday, the day before my birthday. I was already in a shitty mood because of it. On top of that Saturday when he called me, I was cleaning out my garage because I found a black widow spider and all of these egg sacs that carry like 200 or 300 spiders, babies inside each of them. And 3 of those sacs were already hatched. So I was like, it was icky. I was in a bad mood. It was just a shitty day, shitty feel. It was, and I found a snake the night before. Just it got dark. You know what I'm saying? I found I thought it was a copperhead. It ended up only being a corn snake, I think. But it was on my back porch. Anyway, just things felt icky. And something else happened too. But anyway, it was just not the best weekend, the start to the weekend. Now I learned that my dad's narcissist wife is going to be present on my birthday. In previous years, I would have grinned and bared it, been like, oh, okay. And then I would have been passive aggressive, pissed off at my father the whole time when I was out to lunch, and probably made him pay for it without really intending to, but couldn't control myself in the moment. I would have just acted like a brat about it. So that was Saturday. I kind of stewed about it for Saturday and Sunday morning. You guys, I realize when I'm sharing this that you guys are going through something more than just your birthday and feeling like shit. I want you to be able to apply this to all your situations the same way, And I'm just sharing with you the way that I can be just as bratty or annoyed, bitchy about shit as the next person. So as the next day unfolded, I became more and more curious, still very pissed, about what my father was ever thinking to invite her to lunch for my birthday. It didn't make sense to me. Why would he do that? And then it did make sense to me because I'm like, of course he would do this because he doesn't want to hear the backlash. And if she's already got FOMO and is controlling with his time and he tries to tell her he's got to go somewhere, It's just a scene, and I can see that he was trying to save himself, like self-preservation in the moment. So I get it. But I also think that he wasn't thinking about me. He wasn't considering what I wanted that day. And that's what pissed me off. I can't change how he thinks. He is who he is. I also think he was oblivious, and that pissed me off. Finally, I decided to say something. He called on Sunday to wish me a happy birthday and tell me that I could come over to the house beforehand if I wanted to. And I was like, why? Why did you do this? Who were you thinking about? Were you thinking about what I would want? Were you thinking, oh gosh, I know what Shelby would like. Shelby would love to have my wife, who does not care for her, be at her birthday dinner, lunch, Anyway, I probably should have waited until I wasn't so pissed. He did get defensive, and I actually haven't spoken to him since, because I told him that I wasn't going to compromise myself this year, that I was not going to go and cater to do backflips for somebody that wasn't even interested in me, ever, let alone on my birthday. I just wasn't going to play the game that one day of the year. Any other day of the year, I would, but that one day I didn't want to do that. And so I canceled lunch, because I didn't expect him to. I didn't expect him to say, to his wife, don't come. I knew he wasn't going to. I was pissed because in my mind, he put me in this situation. The choices I had in the moment were not great ones. It was either go compromise myself and be pissed at him the whole time for all of this, also be pissed at myself for going anyway, be pissed at her just for breathing, being who she is, So that wasn't the winning answer. But also, I spent my birthday at home here, putting grow lights up for my plants. I was really bummed. Then, of course, the whole time I'm thinking about my daughter and what's upcoming and me not being there for her 17th birthday. And when should I send the It was just an icky day all around, It was a shitty day, and I had shitty choices. I didn't like any of the options in front of me, but I did have choices. Years ago, I would have been in that situation and felt completely victimized. I would have blamed everything on my father. And then I would have inevitably gone through the whole spiral of going and blaming my father for the reason why I chose my daughter's father. Now look where I am today, all because of him. It just would have been a big shit show of victimization. And today, my birthday, it was not a fun day. It wasn't. I was talking to myself out loud in the car, as I do. I was like, shitty days just happen. Sometimes we don't like the choices we have. Sometimes the options in front of us, they're all a bummer. Not one of them is one we would really choose, And I think it's really important to acknowledge that. It takes some of the pressure off and out of the situation as a whole. Just allowing things to be shitty. I was disappointed all day on my birthday, pretty much all day. I went through periods where I was emotional. I can't say I was fully crying, but I was a little teary-eyed and sad about all of the whole situation. My daughter being miles and miles away from me, and I haven't spoken to her, and I don't know what she wants this year for her birthday because I haven't talked to her. And so I had that going on. And then I had this conversation about my father and my brain and his choice in women and this whole situation he's gotten himself in. And, it was just a shit show all around. And so I think acknowledging that it just was a shitty day and it was not ideal. I would have definitely chosen a different route. But I also had to give equal airtime to being proud of myself for the choices that I did recognize and also make in the moment. I think I could have handled the conversation with my father better, for sure. I am proud of myself for standing my ground and setting a boundary, if you will, about what I was going to accept that day, being that it was my birthday. I was not going to subject myself to playing along with that game of lunch. It wasn't what I wanted to do in my heart. And I know I would have been mad at myself for doing it. And so it was probably one of the first times that I've taken a stand like that with my father, for sure, and not allowed myself to sit, backseat in my own life, which I've done way too many times. So I had to recognize that for myself on Sunday. The choices that I had were altogether not ideal, but I did the best with what I had at that moment. And next year, I won't make the same mistake. I won't get my hopes up to have an experience with my father. Maybe we'll have worked it out by then, and maybe we will have a nice birthday, whatever, something or whatever. We'll get over it. I'm fine with him. What happened there speaks more to where he's at, the choices that he makes, and how he has to survive at the moment and keep the peace for his life. So shitty days not only happen, it's what we're signed up for here on this earth, in this life. Like adversity, it's one of those inevitables. It's all relative to each person. It's subjective, but we all go through some sort of adversity and disappointment in our relationships and in our life. We all have shitty days. And I think that there is no antidote to them. There is no cure. It's not something that we need to cure to make it a better day, to make it better in our mind. I need to have a Zen outlook or an up-leveled outlook. Yes, always perspective is everything. But sometimes it is what it is. People do dumb things, inconsiderate things. They disappoint us. Sometimes it's not just because we have some expectations. Things happen and they're not good, and there's no real explanation for them. There are absolutely going to be, that is just, I feel like it's one of those guarantees in life. We will find ourselves feeling like we're stuck in between a rock and a hard place, and that shit feels dark. And that sometimes I think that it causes us to unnecessarily question whether we're on the right track or not. Is this a sign? Am I doing it wrong? Should I have done something else? Is this my punishment? Is this blah, 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 right? If you're asking me, I just don't know if that's a great way to look at it, because it can't help you. That can never help you to also then add in, am I on the wrong track? Is this the sign that I shouldn't have done blah, blah, blah? Because you have nowhere to go from there. I think the best thing that you can offer yourself when you find yourself smack in the middle of a shitty day or a shitty predicament, faced with making a decision with shitty options on the table, whenever moment you realize things aren't going well, decide how you want to feel about it moving forward. Like, instead of allowing your emotions to swoop you up and take you. Maybe I was talking about this in the Facebook Live this last week too. I feel like I mentioned it recently in one of these little events, the podcast or live event. But yeah, is to not allow the emotions to take you, and for you to feel at the effect of the day. It's going to happen. How I was on Saturday and Sunday, when he called me for the second time and let me know that I was to meet them at the restaurant, I had a lot of thoughts in that moment. One of them was, oh, of course, if she's going to be going, she wants to spend as little time as possible with me. So she's like, let's just meet her there and get this done and over with, right? And so I was pissed about that. I wanted to be pissed. And then I was pissed at my dad and, the whole bit. But I chose to be pissed about it because that was authentic for me at the time. There's a difference when you choose it on purpose and when you feel at the effect like they are taking you for the ride. Like the emotions are because of what the other person did. In my case, my father and his wife, right? I won't even call her my stepmom. But yeah, I would have felt victimized by him. And that would cause me to blame and point at him and need him to change in that moment. Do you see? Like, I would have based my whole day on needing him to go say something to his wife, for him to take back everything that happened and have a whole redo. And that could never happen, right? So I would have just set myself up for a lot of failure. Instead, I decided I am upset with him, but it's my responsibility to advocate for myself in that moment, which I did. I ended up just saying, you know what? I'm not going to do that. And so it wasn't him that caused me to feel that way. Yeah, they did some things that I don't like, and I'm going to choose how I want to think about that. I really wish that didn't happen and he didn't choose to invite her, but it is what it is. I have so much more power when I can decide on purpose, like, yeah, I want to feel like shit about this. I'm not happy that he did this. So number one is, if you are in a shitty situation, and hello, alienation being one large one, but all the little situations that surround that. Let's say one of your kiddos' birthdays is around the corner, like my daughter's is. How do you want to feel on that day and the days leading up to it about the fact that it's their birthday? Instead of feeling like, of course, it's my kiddo's birthday, of course I feel like shit. Of course I'm missing them. Of course I feel slighted and taken advantage of, rejected, erased, disrespected, all the things. We think it should be a fact that we feel like shit about their birthday or about whatever's in front of us, that like anybody else would feel that way, but it's not really, it's a choice, and you could very well choose all of those, the quote unquote negative emotions, but still, when you know that you're the one that's choosing them, then you have so much more authority over your life. I hope that I'm making sense right now. So you can have a shitty day, but when you choose to have that outlook on purpose, then you're not a victim of that shitty day. So there's always choices in any predicament we're in, even when we think that we don't have them. Open your eyes a little bit more, because you can decide how you want to respond in that moment. I didn't like that my choices were the ones that I did have the other day with, like either not go and take care of myself and not compromise myself and have to play into the game. I didn't want to stay home that day, but I also didn't want to go and do that. I wanted to have respect for myself. And I could have actually gone and still respected myself had I felt like that was a better option for me, but anyway. So number one is to choose how you want to feel about the shitty situation at hand, as opposed to having it being done at you, because it's not a given. It doesn't always have to be that you decide that you want to feel like a positive about whatever's going on. Feeling and allowing for the negative emotion is a positive. Does that make sense? But when we're fighting that negative emotion and telling ourselves we should be having a positive experience, that is a double negative. Does that make sense? People are always looking for happiness. And happiness really isn't actually an emotion. It's sort of like a state of being. It's a feeling that you're, just like I was kind of saying, on the right track, right? That things are settled, chill, and you're going where you want to go. Right? But when we're on the search for happiness and happiness only, like I need to be there, I need to get to happy, you're actually creating a negative experience for yourself, because you're basically saying that you don't have happiness now. Here is lacking. So you create this negative experience for yourself, as opposed to learning how to create happiness for yourself in any situation that you're in. Not needing to change the things outside of you in order to generate and sustain your state of being overall. The other day, no, I was not thrilled about the day, but I wasn't willing to compromise my whole state of being in telling myself that like my life was off track, that my father was terrible and I was victimized by that. I chose not to do that. Hopefully I'm making sense here. Striving for things to be any different than what they are is going to make you experience a double negative. So if you can just instead accept where you're at is exactly where everything should be, like you're right on track, you're creating fluidity. Is that the word I'm looking for? Like there's not resistance going on. And so then you can create your own force field of homeostasis in any situation you put yourself in. That's not to say that you shouldn't experience negative emotions. It's just that you're not fighting them too, fighting the negative emotion, fighting the experience, fighting all of that on top of whatever you can't control that's happening anyway. You feel me? Okay. So number two, the other thing that you do is even if you do choose the quote unquote negative emotions, you want to be disappointed, unhappy, angry, whatever it is, give equal airtime to experiencing the positive possibilities of the same situation. I did a very early episode on this. It was narrating equal airtime and whatever, that episode, like 6, 7, 8, one of those episodes. Give equal airtime to the positive side of things in that situation that you decide that you want to feel shittily about. So even if you cannot see a positive side in a parallel universe, how might it be possible that a greater outcome could be as a result of whatever has happened? For instance, with my daughter, I don't want to feel joyful about the fact that I am not going to see her for her 17th birthday, right? I don't want to be thrilled by the fact that I don't know what she wants as a gift, or that I haven't spoken to her, or whatever. Fill in the blank here. And I'm okay with that. I've chosen that on purpose. But if I'm going to tell stories to myself about all of that, if I'm going to catastrophize and sort of ruminate on the bad stuff and like the worst case scenario of what could happen if I send the wrong gift or whatever, spend the same amount of energy, effort, time in thinking about what could possibly go right about me sending her whatever gift I send her. How could this be the perfect gift for her? How could this be the perfect situation for the both of us? Even that's a little bit more of an advanced question to ask yourself, So if you just realized that you've been alienated and it's only been happening for a short time, maybe wait on that one. Like, how could this all be happening for me? It might be a stretch for you, and that's okay. But look for ways that it could, in a parallel universe, benefit you in the long run. You know what I'm saying? How can you use it for you? It's funny, now that I say that, I got this message the other day from an old client of mine on the fitness side of things, right? Back in Austin, a client and really a friend of mine who knew me when my daughter was with me all the time, right? And then also when she wasn't with me as much. He knew me from my, the old life, right? And he wrote me a message about, sometimes I post the live events, the Facebook live events. If I have like a 20-minute video or 20 or 30-minute video, and if it was like something I think other people could benefit from, I'll post those on my regular Beyond the High Road coaching page, right? Not always, every so often, if it was a good one and it's just me on camera anyway, I'll post those. And he watched one of those videos and he wrote to me, it was really sweet. I just watched your latest post and it was wonderful. I could listen to you all day. I started crying about how you felt. In some ways, your daughter saved you, made you better and stronger. And then he asked, do you have a podcast? So although I don't fully agree with, I believe always in that you and I should really recognize our choice in the matter. My daughter didn't save me. The situation, I chose to save myself and I chose to make something out of it. You know what I'm saying? And I think the same for you. If you're taking steps to better yourself as a result of this fucking awful situation of alienation, then I think that's commendable and that's amazing. And you did have a choice there. You could have, just like I was saying last week, stuck your head in the sand, gone and drank yourself into oblivion and stayed angry for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? Many, many, many people do that. And so for that, I think that's amazing of you to be listening to this podcast, for instance, knowing that this is all about how to heal yourself and move on and make changes to your life and to who you are as a person. This is amazing. You making these choices, yes, maybe you wouldn't have made them had this situation not happened, but you're choosing over and over each day that you wake up and decide to work on yourself as opposed to giving into the anger. You choose that. You choose that. That is you saving you. You know what I'm saying? And I know what he meant here. And this was like the sweetest to me. I got this and it meant so much to me. Like, that's so sweet. You know, I knew what he meant. And I know that he didn't know that he was saying like that my daughter saved me and that I didn't have any power over that. I know what he meant. He meant well, and it was very touching. But in all reality, I chose that. I had that power. Had this shitty situation of alienation not occurred, there's probably no chance. I mean, who knows? I don't know. We were not in that situation, but it took a lot of banging the head against a wall in order to get me here. A lot. And for that reason, I do believe that these things have come into our lives, each of our lives, for a purpose, for a reason. Like for me, you know, there was like one thing and then another thing, and it got louder and louder and louder and louder until I finally took the hint. And here I am. Here you are listening to me talking in your ear hole right now, you know? But it was a choice. It's still, regardless, it was a choice. I could have done so many things with this. And that's what I want you to empower yourself with. The power of choice, the power of seeing how many decisions you can make in this moment, sometimes when you feel oh so stuck and like at the effect of the world and the unsupportive people, family, friends, situations, custody evaluators, judges around you. I promise you, in the hardest of seasons, it'll feel like nobody's supporting you, that you have no resources. Your future looks dark and gloomy and like there's no way out. And I want to tell you that I truly believe each time you face that discomfort and like that, I don't have any resources, I don't know where to go, I promise you open your eyes and there is a huge opportunity for growth sitting right in front of you. Almost always, it's either right around the corner or smack in your face. And there's a choice to make that either, number one, you are avoiding, right? And that you don't want to acknowledge is in front of you. And that's usually when it's a choice about your choices, your everyday choices, a habit or something going on, that a relationship that you need to say goodbye to, you know, complete that relationship and move along with your life. There's something going on, a choice that you really, really need to make that you've been putting off. But I promise you, those kinds of things, 9 times out of 10, they have a way of just becoming louder and louder and louder. So there's either that is going on and there's a choice that you've been needing to make, or there is a choice that's going to present itself very soon, an opportunity for you to really make something out of this whole mess of alienation, right? And it may not be instant results. You may be feeling like shitty days for a little while. And usually how it worked for me and how I've witnessed my people, my clients experience it is that when you need it to change, when you need the shitty days to go away, they will persist. But when you stop seeing them as all shitty, that there's no choices, that's when you start reaching the summit. You can breathe easier and you're able to sort of see a bigger picture of what's to come and what's already happened. That's when the shit's behind you, you know, is when you allow yourself to be okay and feel like you're on the right track, even in the midst, in the valley, in the gunk of it. When you learn how to like bring peace to your own ecosystem of you, your immediate energy surroundings, a shitty situation or not, there's nothing that you can't face. You never need to rely on anybody to act, react, respond, do, not do, invite you to whatever in order for you to be happy, to feel on track, to feel like you belong. That's what it all boils down to. In the end is that we're all just wanting to belong. We want to belong to our children. We want to belong to a partner. We want to belong in this world. We want to know that we have roles that we're fulfilling and that we're leaving a legacy, working towards leaving a legacy, that we meant something, that we mattered to people, that we contributed in the highest way. All of us, no matter who we are, that's really truly what we're looking for. That sense of like mattering. And when you matter to you, when you realize your own worth, the rest of that shit falls into place, you know? And then you can make the decisions, the shitty, difficult decisions like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that on my birthday. Even if it is that I end up spending it alone, you know? Even if it is that I am sad about the fact that I won't see my daughter for her birthday and share moments with her. Shitty days happen. They do. The choices that we may have in front of us, sometimes they're fucking terrible. You know, they don't feel good. No option seems like the one that you want. And that's okay. Just make the best option for you at that time and know that you always do have choices and you can choose how you want to feel about it. Feeling shitty and at the effect of it and wanting to feel better, that is going to double your negative emotion. You're adding suffering by being like, I want to be there. I want to feel like this. I want them to be doing this so I could feel this way. You're adding a shit ton of self-inflicted negative emotion on top of the shitty situation that already is. So stop fighting it so that you can make the best decisions for yourself. So yeah, so if you want to feel a negative, that's fine, but also consider the positive. All right, guys. Love you. Have a good day. Hey, listen, I've been forgetting to say it, is that number one is Facebook Lives are always on Fridays at noon Eastern time. And also, please, if you haven't yet, I would love it if you would rate and review. I haven't actually checked to see in the last couple of weeks if there's any new reviews, but yes, please, I would love for you to rate and review, especially Apple reviews, because they're the only ones that really do written reviews that I know of. But the more of those, and that's really where the bulk of listeners come from. So the more people that review, the more traffic that Apple and other podcast platforms end up sending us. So other parents like you and I can feel a little bit of relief. So if you're feeling the relief, let's let them feel it too. And thank you, of course, as always, to all of you that have written reviews in the past too. And some of you have actually reviewed 2 times. And when you do that, just so you know, I learned this from one of you reviewers. Thank you, by the way. When you review a second time, it goes on your same review, but it goes in a separate, like on a separate section of that. So if you've ever done that and you want to know where your second review is, just scroll down on your first review and it will be there. And other people can see it as well. So anyway, okay, listen, thank you for in advance for your reviews and your rating. I appreciate it, you guys. And I will see you next week or at the Facebook Live this Friday. Okay, bye. Have a good day. Thanks so much for listening today. If you like what you're hearing and you'd like to hear more, please make sure to click subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. Also, for bite-sized clips and tips, be sure to find me on TikTok or Instagram. See you next week.